spend a little bit of time thinking about why I'm so afraid of looking weak or being weak. Through this process, over the last couple of years, that's definitely come to light as something that's a big driver for me. Um, Jiu-jitsu helped identify some of it because as I guess, literally got stronger and more capable of defending myself and all those types of things, I started to feel a lot better. Like it scratched an itch that I had that for a long time had me feeling insecure or bad about myself because there was, I didn't like to face it, but there was this deep down kind of in the mud inconvenient truth of being weak. The same is true when I talk to people. Like the idea of being taken advantage of or the fear of that is something that's always present. And it's not just weak in a physical sense; it's also weak in like I'm not good enough, or I look stupid, or if there's an interaction with my boss, for example, and I disagree with her, there's always a part of my mind that's thinking the other people on the call, like, do they think I'm just kowtowing to her? Do they think I'm just being weak in that? And it certainly has a huge impact on my life. And there's multiple approaches you can address that. You can address that by being okay with that and recognizing it doesn't matter, right? What other people think of you, and if the perception is you're weak, or maybe it's in your own head, or there's becoming stronger and addressing it that way and feeling like I've accounted for it. And the reality is both of them there's probably value in both of those. Although trying to fix it, trying to, like in the jujitsu terms, right, actually doing something to make yourself feel better, it can work, like with jujitsu. But the problem with that is it's probably a moving target. Um, it's hard to hit a finite point where you say, okay, I'm now no longer am weak or no longer look weak. There's always a risk of it, and that's kind of the nature of it, right? It's intentionally slippery. Um, it's the nature of how our mind works in that way. It'll find ways to make you question and think that you're weak in any scenario, in any setting. So attacking it from that angle, you can make some headway there, but it would seem the much more effective approach is to recognize that. Um, I guess it comes back to authenticity. As long as you're being yourself and you've been thoughtful about that and you have clarity on who you are and you know what you value, if you're being yourself, then there should be no fear of being weak. Because if that's interpreted as weak, well, then that's what it is. Then I guess technically you are weak if somebody thinks that. Um, the terms, the naming convention of it, right? The categorization of it no longer matters because all that matters is you being yourself. People can interpret that however they want, and people will interpret that however they want. That's the point I was just making, right? If you're being yourself, somebody can look at that and say, like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like the way you're acting. I think that's a weak way to act. I think that's an arrogant way to act, whatever it is. You're always going to have that. You're always going to have people that think a different way. They have their own lens, they have their own perspective. If you try and get everybody to look at you exactly the same way, the whole world to view you a certain way, it's impossible. It's an impossible task. You'll fail across the board because you literally can't. I mean, it's mathematical, as it often is. As you try and address this person and say, well, what exactly do you think weak is? Okay, I'll fix that. I'll make it, right? It's all, you have to be strong. You have to be tough in meetings. You have to, be aggressive with people. There's very likely somebody else that looks at that and says, well, actually, I think that's weak. I think it would be much more courageous to be compassionate and empathetic. Oh, okay, so let me go towards that direction. But now the other person thinks you're weak, and on and on and on you go. So I've been thinking a lot lately about authenticity and how that really is the cure-all for all of this. And the way I've been phrasing it is that I personally believe there's no such thing as certainty in life. There's no guarantees in anything in life. But the closest you can get to that sense of comfort that comes with certainty, that gravitational pull that pulls us to certainty so strongly, because it feels so comforting to think like that's what it is. I don't have to worry about it. The closest you'll ever get to that is being authentic. If you're being authentic, there's really nothing to worry about. There's nothing more you can do. Being fake doesn't make any sense. Not being authentic is not logical, right? That's the bad way to go, and that's you trying to control it, to try and figure out how you game the thing to get to where you want to be. If you can just be comfortable in who you are and be authentic, well, now that fear of possibly coming off as weak it's not even a fear anymore, because it's just who you are. Now, that's not to say you can't improve in certain areas. You certainly can, right? You can do jujitsu and build your ability to defend yourself. That's all fine. It's as long as you have clarity on who you are and you're staying true and being authentic to who that person is in the moment. In the moment, right? It's not to say it's always finite, but in that moment, as long as you have that, fear of being perceived as whatever kind of goes out the window.